Let's talk about talk. Let's go deep. We all have something to share. No share with Dr. Dave.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coaching from the Desert. I am your host, Dave A. Cornelius, also known as Dr. Dave. And today we have a truly unique story of courage, adaptation, and a whole lot of heart. We're connected with Michael Tucker, an executive coach who has traded the saguaros of Tucson for the busy cityscape of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Michael has just passed well, not just, but he has passed his 90-day milestone abroad. And he's joining us to reveal what it's really like to step into the unknown. We'll discuss everything from the initial thrill of the adventure to his surprising moments of culture shock and how he's discovering his new normal. So get ready for a candid and funny look into a life-changing transition. So welcome, Michael Tucker. How are you, brother?
Hey, I'm doing good, Dr. Dave. It's good to be here again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like to kick it off with a song. You're going to sing a few lines, or you're going to share a phrase or a statement that's truly inspiring. So, I like to start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't have a song for you, but there's a statement that I have been holding on to for a very, very long time. A friend of mine in Tucson gave me this statement. I don't think he realized that he had given it to me, but it's very simple. And is the better it gets, the better it gets. And
Mm.
I love this statement because sometimes when things are so good in our lives, sometimes we start to look for where the other shoe can drop. And this is just a little reminder that the other shoe doesn't have to drop. You can just keep getting better and keep getting better, and life can continue to bring you all the bounty that's available to you.
I think that's great. I mean, that's great, especially in the space and time that we're living in to hear that the better it gets, the better it gets. And so I also like to ask people to just give a 30-second elevator pitch about yourself, just who you are.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know if I can fulfill your whole 30 seconds, but I can definitely tell you a little bit about myself. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Michael Tucker. I am an executive coach. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a connector. And so my superpower is connecting people with themselves, their dreams, the resources that they require, so that they can live a life that's worthy of themselves. And so currently, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, I'm here in Saudi Arabia. I'm working as an executive coach for the Saudi Electricity Company, where I am responsible for coaching and developing individuals who have been identified as high potential future executives. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, that's a big role, my friend. So tell me, what inspired you to leap from Tucson, Arizona, to Riyadh for this coaching role, and how did you prepare for such a big international move?
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best. I will just start by saying I've always been interested in the world ever since I
Mm,
was a child. I grew up in a small town in South Carolina, and growing up, I couldn't wait to get out. And so, the first way I did that was through the military, and that took me over to South Korea, where I ended up meeting my wife. And ever since we met in 2006, we've been married for 17 years. We've always talked about living abroad. And in 2022, we started to look at it a little bit more seriously because we had gone down to Costa Rica to meet with a friend of ours. I think you might know him,
yeah.
another coach, Kayvon Tucker. So a little shout out to him. He's to blame for this partly. But went down to see this brother, and he really, really encouraged us to take this dream and this aspiration seriously. And so we started to take it very, very seriously. So we ended up for the next year, we ended up going to Mexico, staying for a month to see if we'd like it. That wasn't our place. And then 2024, we decided, well, maybe we won't go anywhere this year. Maybe we'll build a house, which we did. And then one day, as I was leaving one of my clients' locations in Utah, I happened to take a look at my email from the University of Texas, Dallas, where I did my coaching program. I rarely look at this email, but I was in the airport. I didn't have much to do. I opened the email, and there was this position for executive coaches in Saudi Arabia. I hadn't thought about Saudi Arabia. I hadn't thought about the Middle East, but I knew that this was the opportunity that I was going to jump on. And so I did. And after starting that process, 10 months later, I landed in in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. And I will tell you, you're talking about preparation. You asked me about preparation. It's it's almost hard to discuss preparation for something like this, because you like to think. I think we like to think that, oh, I had everything lined up, but wasn't necessarily the case. I can tell you what I did. What I did was do my best to be the best coach that I could be. Save up a lot of money because I didn't realize it at the time, but I needed it in order to do the transition. And the other thing I would say was, while I was building the coaching practice there in Tucson, just making sure that I was achieving my goals. And so as a result of doing all of those things, that desire for something greater was being built inside of me, along with these conversations about moving abroad. And so this is the result.
Yeah, that's big, dude. That's really big. So, during those initial weeks in Saudi Arabia, was there a moment where you just stopped and think and said, wow, I'm not in Arizona anymore? And describe what that experience was and its impact on you. I've been following you and your journaling, online. So, maybe you could share that experience that you have been sharing with the rest of us who are connected to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you reading the Substack. And I know I owe y'all some more some more Substack articles. Um, but what I will tell you is that the moment I realized that I wasn't in Arizona anymore was the moment that I landed in the airport in Riyadh. I get off the airplane and I go to the restroom, like you normally do when you get off the airplane, after flying for all of 24 hours. And then I see this man in the restroom standing on one foot, washing his feet in the sink, washing his other foot in the sink. And I had um, I had never seen this before, but I was aware of what was occurring because I had been studying a little bit about the culture, studying a little bit about Islam, and watching shows on Netflix like Rami and Mo, where I realized what he was doing was what they call making wudu, which is cleaning himself before prayer.
Mm.
And when I saw this, I thought three things. The first one was, number one, I am definitely not in Arizona anymore. Number two, this looks very dangerous, and I hope that this brother is on firm footing. And number three, how devout must this man be to take such an action that's so great, and how amazing this country must be to support him in that.
Yeah.
So it was, I mean, I mean, it really hit all at once.
Well, I could imagine. I could only imagine. And I know you're a world traveler because, when we
Mhm.
get together, you've shared some of your stories of being abroad. So talk about cultural norms or everyday customs in Riyadh that kind of like challenge you the most to really adapt to. And I'm stacking some questions here. I'm not being a good coach, so I'm stacking as an interviewer. And then how are you learning to navigate these differences in your daily life and work?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, so I would say the biggest change I had to make right off the bat was how I built relationships.
Mm,
And I want to be very, very specific about this because I hope that this will help someone who is wanting to do business in the Middle East, wanting to build relationships with people in the Middle East. In the West, we don't realize it. I didn't realize it, but the connections that we build, especially in business, are very surfacey. They are at the surface level, they're very transactional. And even when we think that we're going deep in those relationships, we usually are not. Why? Because most of the relationships that we build in the West, in my experience, are based on some kind of quid pro quo. You're trying to do some kind of deal, some kind of transaction.
Yeah.
And what I learned right away is that you cannot go straight to the deal. You cannot go straight to the transaction. Where you have to go and dealing with folks here and being with folks here is to the heart. You got to start there. You have to start from the heart. You got to get to know them. You have to understand their family situation. You need to understand all the different things in their world that are impacting them and show care and compassion for that. Once you do that and you have a relationship, a real relationship, then they might talk to you about business. Then they might talk to you about their coaching concern. But I will tell you that was a really, really big shocker. And it's interesting because relationships here in my experience are more than just a nice thing to have. It really is about survival on
Mm.
so many different levels. So it's really important. I'll say a couple other adjustments. There's a culture of hierarchy here, and there's a strong degree of respect for hierarchy because I'm not living in a democracy. I'm living in a kingdom. And hey, the the crown prince could wake up and say something's going to be different, and there it is. I mean, and that being said, what I have experienced being here is a great level of care for this leader. I mean, the people they love this leader, and they see him as their brother, not as necessarily a leader per se. And so I have nothing but good things to say about the leadership here. That being said, there is a system of hierarchy, and so you have to be patient with that system of hierarchy because it is not always going to go the way that you want to go. That being said, there's also, because of hierarchy, I think there's also a very leisurely approach, a very, very easy going way to life. And so there's a saying that people say here a lot. It's inshallah, God willing.
Mm.
So I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah, because you don't know how things are going to change between now and tomorrow. So yeah, those are some things that are different. The last thing I'll say is just the commitment to family is unlike anything that I have ever seen. It is absolute. And on Fridays, because Fridays and Saturdays are our weekends here, that the family is going to the mosque, that the family is together, and you're not going to see your friends because they're with your family. It is very serious. And so these are just some things to get used to.
Yeah, we're talking. I was talking to our friend Hassan Rafiq,
Okay.
and he was talking about cultural competency, and it sounds like you are adjusting and learning a lot about what it's like to live within this culture and this environment. So really grateful for you sharing that. And just remember, I'm so glad that I spoke to Hassan like a month ago, right? And he brought that up as well. And he was talking about his relationship or his experience in Saudi Arabia as well. So thank you for that. Um, Talk about unexpected challenges that you encountered, in the first 90 days, and how did you get over that? Like some tricky situation or everyday task that turned into an adventure. What was that like?
Sure. I would say the biggest challenge initially was just integrating into the digital ecosystem here.
Mm.
It was difficult. There's a lot of parts to it. And how do I even start this? Okay, so there is one app that pretty much controls your entire life here. So you have one app, and this app is connected to your bank, it's connected to your job, it's connected to your driver's license, it's connected to whether you
Wow.
get tickets, connected to your residency loaded into this app, and that's a whole process in and of itself. And then you have to make sure that all these other things around services that govern your life are working. And so you have to move through each of these services and connect with them one at a time. And you really don't have a whole lot of interaction from a financial um, perspective here. It's very, very hard to do. They have currency, obviously. However, it's not used very much. Everything is, digital pay on your phone or with a credit card. And the credit cards are even on your, well, that's on your phone in a lot of instances. So they have a pretty tight financial ecosystem. So that was very, very difficult. And I had to learn so much patience because when it works, it's great. But when you're trying to get it set up and it doesn't work, it is a nightmare, especially when you're trying to go about your daily task. So that was one thing. And then another thing I would say, which kind of ties into this and just ties in with just life in general, is there are lots of requirements for things, and there's not a lot of clear directions on how to do things. So so going back to those relationships, you have to talk to people, you have to get to know people, you have to be friendly with people, and they will let you in the inside secrets. So for example, my wife just came here, what, maybe, I guess she's over a week now, and I was working on her residency. I was trying to work on her residency, but I really couldn't do it because I didn't know what I was doing. And it wasn't until I sat down and I talked to someone who explained things to me that I was able to move through the process even faster than I moved through my own process. So, um, definitely challenges with technology. And here's what I will say for those individuals who think that Saudi Arabia is just people riding around on camels. They do have camels, but this is a highly, highly technologically advanced society. So uh, it's different than I even imagined.
No, that's great to hear. That's great to hear, and yeah, because you know what the media is like in the United States. They paint one picture and try to create that reality, but you being on the ground, gives us a reality that's true, right? And it's a lived experience. So that's really cool. So what about some unexpected positive or pleasant surprises you encounter while living and coaching in Saudi Arabia? People, culture, maybe some personal discovery that delighted you. What was that like?
Oh my goodness. I could talk about so much with this. I will just say that one of the most amazing highlights of being here, a lot of times we think that because we have the internet, our location doesn't matter. Let me just dispel that myth. Location matters. Location very much matters. Coming here, I have had the opportunity to meet so many incredible people. I mean, especially even the expats here, especially the expats here. I mean, the Saudis are great too, but I have to give a shout out to the expats who are coming here from all over the world. And what I will tell you is that the relationships that I've had the opportunity to build with expats are very, very high quality relationships. These individuals are at the top of their game in whatever their profession is. You don't get here unless you're at the top of your game and you're really ready to play a big game. I mean, I've met people who are building the world's largest airport. I've met people who are overseeing large sums of money through the sovereign wealth fund. I have met people who are just other great coaches. We'll
Mm.
give some shout outs to coaches. It's just I could go on and on and on. People here who are building data centers. I could go on and on and on. So the caliber of individual that shows up out here has been a huge, huge highlight for me. And I would say on a personal note, one of the highlights for me, which initially was a little bit of a challenge, was initially the amount of solitude that was available to me. I had an abundance of solitude, let me tell you. And so, and so, um, the beautiful thing about that was it's something that I'm really glad that I had the awareness to take a hold of was these moments of solitude, these moments of loneliness, if you will, and really leaning into them and gaining new insights about myself, new insights about the world, new insights about what's important to me, how to relate to folks. And that has been a real gift. I noticed I'm a lot more calmer. It's so a lot more calmer. I'm a firecracker. I can very much be that. But in terms just on the inside, I'm a lot more calmer these days.
I could tell. I'm sensing that, as well, just from seeing you and some of the things you're writing about. But what about immersing yourself in this new culture? How is that influencing your approach to coaching and leadership? Did you need to adjust your style or mindset to connect with clients and colleagues in Saudi Arabia? You're shaking your head, yes. I'd love to hear
Oh,
more about that.
oh yeah. Well, first and foremost, again, I talked earlier about building that relationship. That's absolutely important. But the biggest thing that I had to learn was really to be patient and slow down. And I had to give up this really strong idea around what a coaching session needed to be. I needed to give up what time the client shows up because that's not the culture here. You say 10 o'clock, they might show up at 10:15. They might show up at 10:30, right? And so I learned very quickly that that kind of rigidness was not going to work for me here. So I had to give that up. Um, Another thing that I learned in terms of how I shifted my coaching style, we think in the West, let me put this differently. Love the ICF. ICF does some great things. And 100% pure ICF coaching out here will get you thrown out.
Yeah.
So, so what I mean by that is yes, hold on to those principles, those ICF principles, the core competencies. You need to do those. However, it's also important. I had to learn that it's also important to be willing to educate, to be willing to mentor, to be willing to teach, because there's such a hunger for knowledge and information. It is very, very great. And one of the things that I learned from one of the other coaches here was he said, Michael, he said, before you ever try to get someone in a deep coaching relationship where they're telling you all of the things that are important and sacred to them in their life, you need to give them something. You need to give them something. You need to give them massive value before they ever even believe that you're worthy of them sharing these things with you.
Hmm.
And that was something that that stuck with me, and I was able to do that in a collective way by a course that I had put together. It was a day, not even a day long. It was just an hour-long program that I put together when I initially started engaging with my coaches at the company. And those guys, they talked about that course, that 1 hour class for a week.
Good.
And so I think that's one of the things that really gave me a little bit of credibility early on. And it's something that I find that I'm constantly making an effort to build. Trust is so important and building it is so important, and it's it takes effort to maintain. So
I could only imagine. I could only imagine. And look, I know moving abroad it can be a daunting experience. I know what that's like coming from the Caribbean to live on the mainland and stuff like that. So, what strategies, habits, that helped you to acclimate your new life in Riyadh, establishing routine, whether it's personal, professionally, in building a network, learning a language, right? A routine that keeps you grounded. You're talking about loneliness. I'd love to hear about that personal adaptation in the process as well.
Sure. Well, like I was saying earlier, I mean, everything changes moment to moment. And so, again, this attachment to a fixed reality,
Yeah.
that was one of those things that I really had to let go of. And I'll give you an example. It seems it's it's kind of a funny example. So I guess they decided that we were going paperless.
Mm.
And the next day the printers were gone. So
Wow.
okay, so we're going paperless. And you just have to adapt. You have to adapt. Now, fortunately for us, they left a printer in our section because we do all the training and so forth. But still, um, good luck finding a printer in our very, very, very large building that we work out of. So with these consistent changes, what I found for me is really important is to have my own personal routine that keeps me grounded each day. So having you know, a very consistent way of doing things that really helped me a lot. So whether it's um, just getting up at a certain time or making my bed first thing in the morning. It's all of those things that give me a sense of control in my life doing those because, like I said, there is a degree of control, but it is very limited here in terms of your environment.
I could only imagine. So the last questions that I have, and we have some guests who are hanging out. They may have some questions after this. So, in terms of guidance for aspiring coaches who wants to go abroad, be on your adventure, what are three insights to share with people listening to this podcast who may want to take this leap? Yeah, what are three things that you would give them?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say if you want to move abroad, make the commitment first to do it, and then everything else will fall in place.
Mm,
What I'm, and the reason that I say this is because my wife and I, we had been talking about it for years, but it wasn't until we made the commitment that things actually start to happen. And then when you get to your new location, do your best to make the best of it. And if you're American or British or South African or wherever you're from, I would encourage you to just learn a new culture. Be innocent, learn a new culture, and give up how you think things ought to be based on the culture that you come from. Because I will tell you, it takes a lot of energy. And I was just talking to my wife about this the other night. It takes a lot of energy, and there are a lot of things that need to go right energetically within me and in my life in order for me to operate at such a high level. And so, because that's the case, I am very diligent about protecting my energy. And so, if you are one of those expats and you are so locked in to where you're from and you're having a difficult time letting that go, and you want to talk about all the things that is wrong with the place and how people ought to do things different and how, all of these kinds of things, that will be the fastest way for you to lose my presence because I will not be around. I
mm,
just, you really have to just accept where you are and just lean into that. Um, and I think the last thing I will say, I don't know if that's three, maybe this is four, but the last thing I will say, and what's working for me is just rest more than you think that you need to. Because when you move abroad, there there are so many things that are going on in your mind. There are so many things that are pulling on you emotionally, energetically, and you might not even be aware of them in the moment. But those things tug on you, and you need to rest and take care of yourself. So those are some words of guidance that I would share.
thank you. Thank you so much. I know we have some guests here. I see Dr. Deborah Clary. I see Jay Abe. We have Miriam Spinner. I mean, do you guys have any questions? So, guys, ladies, have any questions that you would like to ask Michael? Some stuff that you'd like to gain some insights on? You could come on camera. I mean, if you choose to, open up your mic, um, fire up a question if you choose to.
Can you hear me? This is Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
Hi. I'm just curious about the language. Did you learn the language, or is English a common language there? How did the language piece work?
Sure. So Arabic is the primary language here, and I have not learned the language. I have started and stopped several times in that process. However, what I will say is that it is important to be able to say some things in Arabic just to just to move through the world. And I'm still learning that from a coaching standpoint, because I'm coaching senior leaders. A part of the requirement for them to be in the program that I lead is an English competency. So now, that being said, you really have to be patient and listen to them because English is not their first language. And so their accent may throw you off. Um, the pace might be a little different than what you're used to, but you really just have to slow down and listen. And that takes energy, it takes effort. So learn a language if you can, but if you're again working with senior leaders, there's generally an English competency requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
You
and then
bet.
Deborah Clary, she said, I spent time in Saudi Arabia in January, and I would assume January of 2025, and she agreed how lovely the people are.
They are. They really are. And it takes a moment for them to warm up to you, but once they warm up to you, these are some of the most kindest people I have ever met. They will give you the shirt off their back. And it's the level of care and the humanity that I have seen shown. It's it's incredible. It's awe-inspiring, and I think that ties in also with I know the demeanor and the calmness that I feel because when I see these individuals just connecting with each other and how much patience and how much care and how much love is there, it's not something that I'm used to experiencing in the States, except for when driving. The, but I don't know, you put folks in the car and it's a whole different story, but just
Universal,
in
huh?
general, what's that?
I said universal, that
I think it's
behavior about driving.
it's a universal thing. In fact, I was actually in a car accident just 2 days ago. I was
Wow.
riding in the back with the driver, and because there's so much freedom and liberty and space, folks sometimes like to cut across lanes, and that can be very dangerous. But overall, just the connection. Once you establish that relationship, once you get in, it's a beautiful thing.
Excellent. Ibe, do you have anything that you would like to add or inquire about?
Yeah, Mike, I'll thank you for the time though you spent so far, just being real. I live in Arizona. I'm in
Mm,
Arizona for the past since '94. So uh, thank you so much. One of my questions, I have two questions. One of them is about it, is spiritual intelligence.
Hmm.
Since you have a different, since I don't know if you are, if you're Muslim or not, but coming from the US, how were you able to connect in your coaching practice with their spiritual background, if that makes sense?
That is such an incredible question, and I love it. And I can only answer this question in the way that I can answer it. Somebody else might approach it differently, but for me, when I think about spirituality, it's inclusive of all things. And so for me, when I'm sitting with clients, regardless of what their religion is, I'm able to just meet them where they are. I mean, it's funny. I was having a whole conversation just 2 days ago with a client of mine, incredible conversation. And we were talking about his goals, but we were tying those to principles of Islam that were important to him. I'm okay with that. And I make space for it and I invite it, I welcome it because at the end of the day, when we're looking at developing the total capacity of the human being, you can't just leave out the spiritual aspect of that human being just because you don't understand completely what's important to them. I mean, and he was giving me a whole lesson and everything, and and I was game for it, and it was a beautiful experience. So for me, the way I see it is, and often I get people asking me this question, what's your religion? And I tell them my religion is love. I love you all. That's where I'm at. Somebody else might approach it different, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I've done some work in Dubai. A couple of years ago, I was in Dubai, so I wasn't sure if they have similar. I assume they do, but if they have similar practice. Uh, my other question is about mental health.
Mm.
So outside of the US, people are not open when it comes to mental health. So have you come across in your coaching practice where you have the feeling or you have the sense of referring somebody to a mental, in other words, have they been able to open up in terms of their, you know, mental issues where you have to refer them to a psychologist or a therapist? Or how do you handle that?
That's a really great question. Another one. I don't necessarily get a lot of conversations that are related to mental health. However, what I have experienced is conversations connected to grief. And that
Okay.
is a conversation that is universal. And um, sometimes that grief can be really strong in whatever capacity it is for that person. And I'm very comfortable. Um, and I remember one conversation where I did explore this with an individual. I asked them if they had ever considered therapy to
Mhm.
deal with, the things that were going on in their life. And surprisingly, this person had, and they were getting the care that they needed. But it's not a topic that I hear about a lot. And I think that maybe the more time I spend here, it might surface a little bit more. But in the first 90 days, very little.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your questions.
No
You honor
problem.
me with them. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Um, any other questions before I close? Well, I have one question.
Go for it.
Are you coming back?
We'll see. We'll see.
That was a good one. Are you coming back, dude? Am I gonna see you or I have to come over there to see you?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll
We'll see.
see. The jury's out right now.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair thing. That's a fair response. All right. Well, let me just close and just say thank you everyone for joining us today. And what a powerful and insightful conversation with Michael Tucker. His willingness to share his highs and lows, of his move to Riyadh, especially in the emphasis of just adapting with an open mind and sense of humor, offers valuable lessons for all of us. It's clear that these early experiences are really shaping him not only personally, but making him more flexible and culturally aware coach um, in a global sense. So, Michael, thank you for your incredible honesty and for inspiring us with your resilience. And I want to say to our listeners, we hope that Michael's journey inspires and motivates you to pursue your growth opportunities, wherever those are. whether it's at home or traveling abroad. I hope this just gets you up to start taking the next step, whatever that step is, and wherever they may lead you in the process. So just remember, thriving as a leader often requires stepping outside your comfort zone and learning to connect on new levels. So with that, I'm going to say be well, and we look forward to connecting soon. Thanks, Michael. Anything else? So you're the last word on the recording.
Live courageously.
Thank you.
We all have something to share. No share with Dr. Dave.